As Quinn looked around him, he found a broken piece of the mech nearby. It was a long metal shape that looked similar to a pole, but he had no idea what part of the mech it was used for. He picked it up and looked off into the distance. He aimed carefully at another mech that was destroyed, far up ahead and off to the side of the entrance. Using all his strength, he threw the piece of metal a great distance. It was an amazing feat, and looked almost superhuman, of course. Quinn was only able to perform this because he had super strength compared to others. The piece of metal landed exactly where he was aiming for, making a large clang sound as it fell on the mech. The rats then looked up at where the noise was coming from and quickly scurried off in the direction of the sound. "This is my chance." Quinn, using all the powers in his legs, bolted for the entrance. He had finally reached the dome-like building. The entrance was like a hallway surrounded by a wall on either side, and just a little further up where there were 2 steel doors. He tried pushing the steel doors open, but there was no luck. He noticed that the doors were undamaged, just like the rest of the building, meaning most likely it was made out of the same material. As he looked around the door for anything, he spotted another access code machine. He immediately rushed forward, placing his hand on the machine and used his inspect skill. "I hope these works don't let me down." "An access code machine linked to the 2 steel doors. The combination is 333-462-53778. However, just as Quinn was inputting the code into the machine, the Ratclaws had returned. As the beasts saw him, they shrieked and called out another 2 of its friends. There were now 4 of the things. As he heard the sound of the beast behind him, his hand started to shake. Come on! Come on! Beep! Damn, I must have put in the wrong number. His nerves were getting the better of him, and his concentration had been broken. He used his inspect skill once again, making sure he had the right code. He started inputting the numbers again when he suddenly felt something chomp down onto his leg. 9 of 50 HP. As he looked down, it was one of the rats, and the other 3 weren't too far behind it. Quinn then swung his fist down as hard as he could at the rat, smashing its skull into pieces. The rat was forced to let go, but still wasn't dead. The other 3 were now too close, and he no longer had any time to input the code. Flash step! Then Quinn was suddenly behind them, but he was still too close to the 4 rats. Flash step only had a distance of 5 meters at most. The rats turned and all ran forward towards him. I have no choice! He held out his palm and fired. Blood burst! A shotgun-like spray of blood was released from his hand, and it knocked back all 4 of the rats, killing the already injured one. 4 of 50 HP, 100 EXP. He then rushed forward to one of the rats on the ground, held both hands together, and slammed it down on another rat's head, killing the second one. 100 EXP. Now the other 2 rats had recovered and were quickly after Quinn once again. Out of desperation, he swung his hands and activated his blood swipe, although this time the blood swipes were strong and had killed each one in a single attack. 100 EXP, 100 EXP, 850 of 25,600 EXP, 2 of 50 HP. With his time running incredibly low, Quinn didn't even bother to get out the beast crystals. There was also the fear that more beasts might be coming. He went up to the door this time inputting the code correctly, and as he entered, he shut the door behind him, making sure it was locked. He was now in what looked like a reception area, a canteen of sorts with several seats and a desk at the front. It was in top condition compared to the rest of the city. In fact, it looked like an entirely different place. There were 2 hallways, one leading to the left and one leading to the right, both with the words Training Center written on them. With his health running low, he had less than 2 hours to find the portal. He entered the main training hall. It was a large room with several seats in the stands. It reminded Quinn of the game as it looked similar. Everything was white in color and had a modern, empty look to it. But as Quinn stared at the empty field in the center, all he could see was disappointment. The arena down below was completely empty. There was not a single thing down there, not even a scrap of metal, never mind a portal. Quinn fell to his knees in despair. He felt like this was his last chance. There was no way he had the time to go walking around the city looking for another room with a portal. But he didn't give up yet. He lifted himself up off the ground and searched around the training center. He searched in the preparation rooms, the offices, the gym, and even back in the reception area. But nothing. There wasn't a single thing he could find. He now laid there on the floor in the center of the arena, looking up at the ceiling. 1 of 50 HP. The pain in his stomach was too strong. His vision was now blurring up, and he could no longer think properly or move. So this is how my life ends, huh? Quinn said. "Mom, Dad, why did you leave me on my own? Why did you give me this book? I thought when I got this book maybe I might be able to change something, but I guess not." Then the final hour had passed. 0 of 50 HP. HP has reached 0 due to hunger. Transformation will now begin. That night, Vorden struggled to sleep just like every other night. He couldn't remember the last time he got a good night's sleep. Some nights he was able to sleep peacefully and dream just like any other person, but then there were times where his mind was sent to the back room. At that time, no one was sitting in the chair. No one was in control. Lately, this has been happening more and more frequently. In the black room, the three of them would usually talk to each other while the body rested, but he always had a worry when he was in that room. The chair was empty. At any point in time, any one of them could sit in the chair and take control. For now, Vorden acted as the gatekeeper, but that was only because the little one allowed him to. That's when he felt a slight tug on his arm. "Hey, wake up, kid. It looks like you were having a nightmare," Ian said. As Vorden opened his eyes, he looked around and noticed that he was still in the pitch-black room. "Oh, sorry about that. I hope I wasn't making too much noise," Vorden replied. "Well, this is a scary place. A kid like you shouldn't be here on their own in the first place, so don't worry about it," said Ian. "Do you mind if we swap for a bit?" Ian then switched places with Vorden. While Ian lied on the uncomfortable hard floor, Vorden would look out for the gaps in the bookshelf, keeping watch. In almost an instant from behind him, Vorden could hear the sound of Ian's loud snores. Unlike him, Ian was able to get to sleep almost instantly. "Hey, Vorden, if you aren't going to kill him now, what about when we find the portal?" Rayton asked. "The advanced crystal he is carrying would be very helpful to us, and no one would find out. You've seen how weak he is, and now we have his ability, it would be easy to finish him off." "While I'm in charge, nobody gets hurt," Vorden replied, getting annoyed. "Fine, but one of these days when we're in trouble, I won't be coming to help you, and when he sees you're doing a bad job, I will be put in charge instead, and I am not going to let you decide a single thing." When doing nothing, it was hard to tell how much time had passed. Vorden didn't even know how long he had been asleep for, and with the sky always showing black, he had no way of knowing. After waiting what felt like an entire day, it seemed like Ian had finally woken up. As he lifted himself off the ground, he continued to wince in pain and hold on to his ribs. "I'm telling you, I can't wait to get home," Ian said. Vorden turned around to look to Ian, seeing that he was struggling to get up. He offered his hand once again and pulled him up from the floor. But as Ian got off the ground, his face suddenly dropped. In one of the holes he had made, all that could be seen was a single large eyeball looking through. Ian immediately went to his waist and grabbed a small dagger, throwing it at the beast's eye. Using all his strength and the added stats of the equipment he was wearing, the dagger flew right through the eye and out the other end, killing it in a single blow. Then, when he pulled his hand back, the dagger flew back into his hand. "Let's get out of here!" Ian shouted as he kicked one of the shelves, knocking it over. As the two of them climbed on top of the fallen shelf, they could see that they had been surrounded. All around the library, on top of the ceiling, on the side of the walls, were multiple slug-like creatures everywhere. They had a single large eye on its head, and sticking out of its sides were multiple tentacles coming from the beast's underbelly. "I thought you were keeping a lookout," Ian said. "I was, but the small space would only let me see so far." Vorden was a little distracted deep in his thoughts, but even so, it was hard for him to see beasts like these, for they were able to scale up the sides of the wall and hang from the ceiling.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.